I found out my sister slept with my fiancé, and I'm not sorry about what I did after. The moment I first found out my sister had slept with my fiancé was like an atomic bomb dropped into my life. I never saw it coming. My sister and I had been close for as long as I could remember. Growing up, we were practically inseparable. We shared everything: secrets, dreams, clothes, even the same group of friends. So to say I was blindsided is an understatement. She didn't just betray me, she set fire to the foundation of trust we had built our entire lives on. And my fiancé? Logan, the man I'd been with since high school. The one I stood by through every trial and hardship, the man I was going to marry in just a few months. We had already started planning the wedding. I'd already picked out the dress, the venue, everything. It was supposed to be the happiest time of my life. Yet here I was, devastated, betrayed, and fuming in a way I didn't think was humanly possible. The worst part? My mom knew. She knew about the whole thing and kept it a secret because my sister begged her to. She chose to protect my sister's dirty secret rather than protect me from the biggest heartbreak of my life. My own mother. But my dad? He wasn't having any of that. He spilled the beans, and when he did, it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Hearing those words, that Logan had cheated on me with my sister, felt like a gut punch. The rage bubbled up inside me, white hot, and I didn't know where to put it. I kicked Logan out immediately. I threw his stuff out onto the street, and I'll be honest, some of it ended up in the trash. A part of me wanted to see his things burn, to turn his clothes into ashes and scatter them to the wind like the remnants of our relationship. But there was another, quieter part of me that was hurt beyond belief. I thought of all the years we'd spent together. How could he throw it all away for something so stupid? My sister? Well, I couldn't just sit with my rage. I needed to do something that would hurt her like she had hurt me. Maybe not physically, though the thought did cross my mind, but emotionally. I wanted her to feel the same depth of betrayal that I was drowning in. You see, my sister has this garden. It's not just any garden, but a memorial garden for her dog who had passed away. She poured her heart into that garden after she lost him. It was her sanctuary, her way of coping with grief. So, naturally, I knew exactly where to strike. I knocked on her door, played nice for a while. She had no idea I knew yet, and then I let her have it. I told her I knew everything about her and Logan, and I watched as the color drained from her face. Then, I walked into her precious garden, the one she had tended to so lovingly, and I crushed some of her flowers beneath my feet. Was it petty? Yes. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. Her excuse for what she did? It just happened. She said it as though they tripped and fell into bed together. Like it was some sort of cosmic accident that neither of them could control. I couldn't believe her. How could she sit there, crying like the victim, when she had destroyed everything that mattered to me? After that, I cut her off. Told her I didn't want her speaking to me again. Hell, I even cut off my mom. If she was going to choose my sister over me, then she could deal with the consequences. As for Logan, I threatened him with the cops if he ever came near me again. I wanted nothing more to do with him. My sister had the audacity to cry and scream at me, as if she was the one who had been wronged. The nerve. I didn't stop there though. I needed the world to know what they had done. So, I went on social media, unblocked both of them, and tagged them in a post that exposed everything. I wasn't going to let them rewrite the narrative and spin it like I was the one overreacting. I wanted everyone, our friends, our family, even strangers, to know exactly who they were and what they had done to me. And guess what? Logan blocked me almost immediately after seeing my post. Coward. My sister, on the other hand, blew up my phone. She was sending me text after text, all in caps, begging me to take the post down. She even threatened to come over and tell Mom that I was spreading her business online. Like I cared. When she showed up at my house, banging on my door like a lunatic, I let her in. Big mistake on her part. I was ready for her. She screamed at me to take the post down, and I screamed back that it would stay up for as long as I damn well pleased. The more she yelled, the more I saw red, and when she had the nerve to tell me Logan was tired of me, I snapped. I punched her. Now, I'm not a violent person by nature, but in that moment, it felt like the only way to make her understand the depth of my pain. She retaliated, of course, throwing every insult she could think of at me, telling me I was evil, that I deserved to rot in hell. She was so wrapped up in her own victim complex that she couldn't see the devastation she had caused. When she finally left, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction because I had finally stood up for myself, but sadness because I knew our relationship would never be the same again. This person who I had shared everything with was now a stranger to me, someone I could never trust again. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, Logan's mom called me. She asked how I was holding up and if I had heard the news. I braced myself for whatever was coming next. And then she dropped the bombshell: my sister was pregnant. With Logan's baby. That's when the tears came. I sobbed for what felt like hours. How could this get any worse? It wasn't enough that they had betrayed me. Now they were going to have a child together. A constant, living reminder of the pain they caused me. My sister kept begging me to take down the post, saying she didn't deserve all the hate she was getting online. She claimed she was sorry, that it was all a mistake. But I didn't care. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry that people knew about it. There's a difference. She tried to play the victim, saying that I was punishing her over a mistake, that she'd been there for me through everything, and that she would have forgiven me if the roles were reversed. I knew that was a lie. She wouldn't have forgiven me. She wouldn't have done anything differently if I was the one who had slept with her fiancé. I told her I hoped her life would end up like her dead dog. Cruel? Maybe. But at that moment, I didn't care. I wanted her to feel the same pain she had inflicted on me. She left my house in tears, and I didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. My dad called me a few days later, asking me to take the post down because my sister was bawling her eyes out over the mean comments she was getting online. My mom was still defending her, saying we needed to chill out and cut her some slack because she was pregnant. But I wasn't having it. My sister didn't deserve slack. She deserved everything she was getting. So now, I've cut ties with both my mom and my sister. My dad, too, after he kept pushing me to take down the posts. The only people I trust now are my cousin and Logan's sister, who have been supporting me through this whole mess. A small part of me feels bad for exposing them like I did, but they hurt me in a way that's beyond repair. And if they're struggling with the consequences, that's their problem. Not mine. After cutting ties with my mom and dad, life got weirdly quiet. It was like I had been living in this whirlwind of betrayal and chaos, and suddenly, everything just stopped. But it wasn't the kind of peace I wanted. It was this uncomfortable, hollow silence where all the noise of anger and hurt had subsided, and now I had nothing but my own thoughts to deal with. Therapy started to seem like less of a suggestion and more of a necessity, but there was still a part of me that resisted. Maybe because admitting I needed help felt like letting them win. Maybe because I wasn't ready to feel anything other than the rage that had kept me going. Logan's sister, bless her heart, was still my rock through all of this. We started hanging out more, grabbing lunch, going to movies, and just doing anything to take my mind off of things. I jokingly started calling her my new sister, but deep down, it wasn't entirely a joke. She had stepped up in ways my real sister never could, and it was both comforting and tragic at the same time. But the drama wasn't quite over yet. Because, of course, nothing in my life could just be simple. The thing about small towns, or even big towns with small-minded people, is that gossip spreads like wildfire. The posts I had made exposing my sister and Logan? They didn't stay confined to just our mutual friends. Oh no. Those posts made their way into the hands of people I barely knew, and suddenly, my private hell was becoming a public spectacle. People started talking. I'd get messages from acquaintances, some who just wanted to express sympathy, others who were clearly looking for more dirt to dig up. I even had a few old high school classmates reach out, telling me how brave I was for standing up for myself. Brave? It didn't feel like bravery. It felt like survival. One night, while I was out with Logan's sister, we'll call her Sarah to make things easier, I got a message from my ex-fiancé's mom. This woman, who had once called me the daughter she never had, now wanted to clear the air. I wasn't in the mood for her guilt trip apologies or whatever weak explanation she was going to give me for Logan's behavior, but Sarah convinced me to at least hear her out. And like a fool, I did. We met at a small cafe, and the moment she sat down, I could tell she wasn't there to apologize. No, she was there to explain why Logan had done what he did. Apparently, he was confused. He didn't know what he wanted, but he didn't want to hurt me. He had fallen into some existential crisis and didn't know how to handle his feelings. And as for my sister? Well, according to his mom, it just happened. Like my sister had been telling me all along, I could feel my blood boiling as she rambled on about how boys will be boys, and how Logan still cares deeply for me, even though he was now shackled to my sister and her soon-to-arrive baby. I didn't even let her finish. I stood up, threw a 20 on the table, and walked out without looking back. Sarah followed me, and we ended up having an impromptu therapy session in the car, where I vented for what felt like hours. It's funny, really. In movies and TV shows, this is the part where the heroine has some sort of epiphany, where she realizes her worth and rises above it all. But in real life, there's no magical moment. There's just the day-to-day grind of trying to rebuild your life after it's been blown apart. I started going back to the gym, not because I was chasing some revenge body or anything, but because I needed something to channel all this anger into. Punching a bag for an hour straight turned out to be pretty therapeutic. Who knew? I also started focusing more on my job. I threw myself into work in a way I hadn't done in years, partly because I needed the distraction, but also because I needed to feel like I was good at something again. My personal life had been reduced to rubble, but at least I could still crush it in my career, right? But as the days passed, something unexpected happened. I started to feel lighter. Like the weight of everything was slowly being lifted off my shoulders. Cutting off my toxic family had been a hard decision, but it was the right one. And now, without their negativity hanging over me, I felt like I could finally breathe again. The storm clouds were starting to clear. Of course, my sister's meltdown continued to play out. She was now officially in her second trimester, and the reality of her situation was starting to hit her. Logan wasn't exactly thrilled about becoming a dad, and it turns out their little love affair wasn't built to last. Shocker, right? According to Sarah, who was still in contact with her brother, despite everything, Logan was starting to realize the magnitude of what he had done. He wasn't just losing me, he was losing the life we had built together, the future we had planned. And now, he was stuck with a woman he didn't love, a baby he didn't want, and a family that was falling apart at the seams. Do I feel sorry for him? Not even a little bit. My sister? She's still playing the victim, of course. She's convinced that the world is against her, that she's being unfairly punished for a mistake. But the truth is, she made her bed, and now she has to lie in it. I hear through the grapevine that she's not handling pregnancy very well. She's overwhelmed, exhausted, and more than a little bitter that Logan isn't stepping up the way she thought he would. Karma's a funny thing, isn't it? As for my mom, well, she's still firmly in my sister's corner. She keeps calling me, leaving messages that range from tearful pleas to angry rants, begging me to take down the posts and make peace with my sister. But there's no peace to be had here. Not yet, anyway. Maybe one day, when the wounds aren't so fresh, when I've fully healed from the betrayal, I'll find it in my heart to forgive. But for now, I need space. I need time to rebuild my life on my own terms, and you know what? I'm doing just fine. The friends I still have, the people who stuck by me through all of this, have been amazing. They've helped me see that I don't need a wedding to feel complete. I don't need a fiancé who betrays me or a sister who stabs me in the back. I'm enough, just as I am. And that realization? That's worth more than any wedding dress or ring. The future's uncertain, sure. But for the first time in a long time, I'm okay with that. I don't know what's coming next, but I'm ready for it. I'm stronger now, and I won't let anyone take that away from me. In the months following my confrontation with Tia and Logan, life settled into a strange kind of limbo. I still had my moments of anger, sadness, and betrayal, but slowly, the rawness of those emotions started to dull. The world kept spinning, even though my life had come crashing down. Isn't it funny how life does that? Your personal universe implodes, but time doesn't care. It marches forward, indifferent to your pain, dragging you along with it whether you're ready or not. One of the hardest parts was not having someone to talk to in the way I used to talk to Tia. We had always been close, inseparable, even. Growing up, she was my best friend, my confidant, my partner in crime. We shared everything, from clothes to secrets, to crushes on boys who barely knew we existed. But now, every shared memory felt tainted. Every laugh, every late-night conversation, every tear shed together, spoiled by her betrayal. How could she do this to me? How could she destroy our bond, something so sacred, over someone as insignificant as Logan? I guess that's what hurt the most, not losing Logan, but losing her. Logan was my fiancé, sure, but Tia was my sister. She was supposed to be the one person I could trust, the one who would have my back no matter what. And yet, she had thrown it all away for what? A fling? A moment of weakness? Whatever it wasn't worth the pain it caused. As for Logan, I had no regrets about throwing him out of my life. He had always been charming, good-looking, and funny, the kind of guy who could light up a room. But underneath all of that charm was a weakness. A cowardice that I hadn't seen before. When faced with the responsibility of our relationship, of the life we had built together, he crumbled. He chose the easy way out, betraying me with my own sister instead of facing whatever doubts or fears he had. Now that the dust had settled, I could see that I had dodged a bullet. Logan was never the man I thought he was. He was weak, and I needed someone strong. Someone who would stand by me in the darkest moments, not run to the nearest available option. In a twisted way, I felt almost grateful that I found out who he truly was before I walked down the aisle and bound myself to him for life. If Tia hadn't slept with him, I might still be living in that illusion, blindly believing in a future that was never going to happen. But just because I was starting to feel better didn't mean everything was okay. There were still so many loose ends, so many emotional landmines that could set me off at any moment. One of those landmines was my mom. She had tried to reach out several more times since my confrontation with Tia, but each time, I ignored her. I couldn't bear to hear her excuses, to listen to her defend my sister and justify her actions. In her eyes, I was the one overreacting. I was the one who needed to calm down and make peace with the situation. But how could I ever forgive the people who had hurt me so deeply? One evening, after another unanswered call from my mom, I sat down with Sarah to talk. We had been hanging out more and more, and I was starting to see her as a true sister, one who would never betray me. Over a bottle of wine, I spilled my frustrations about my mom, about Tia, about the entire mess. I just don't get it, I said, swirling my wine glass. How can she take Tia's side? How can she act like I'm the one in the wrong? Sarah shook her head. Some people can't handle conflict. They'd rather sweep everything under the rug and pretend it never happened than deal with the reality of it. But she's my mom, I said, my voice cracking. She's supposed to protect me, to stand up for me. Not enable Tia's behavior. Sarah reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I know. It sucks. But you can't change her. All you can do is focus on yourself and what you need to heal. I nodded, tears welling up in my eyes. I just don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive them. Any of them. You don't have to forgive them, Sarah said firmly. Not right now. Maybe not ever. Forgiveness is for you, not them. And if you're not ready, that's okay. Her words brought me some comfort, but the ache in my chest remained. I knew Sarah was right. I couldn't control my mom, or Tia, or Logan. I could only control how I responded. And for now, that meant staying as far away from them as possible. Meanwhile, the fallout from my public exposure of Tia and Logan's affair continued to ripple through our social circles. People were taking sides, and it was clear that most were on my side. My cousin, who had been a bridesmaid in the wedding that would never happen, became my unofficial spokesperson. She had no problem calling out Tia's behavior and making sure everyone knew the truth. I didn't even have to lift a finger. One day, she called me with an update. "Guess what I just heard," she said, her voice brimming with excitement. "What?" "Tia and Logan are fighting. Like, really fighting. Apparently, Logan isn't too thrilled about becoming a dad, and Tia is losing her mind because he's not stepping up." I couldn't help but feel a little smug. It was exactly what they both deserved. "Serves them right," I said. "Yup. And get this, Tia's been crying to anyone who will listen about how mean everyone is being to her. Like, she doesn't get why people are so mad." "Unbelievable," I muttered. "She's still playing the victim." "Oh, totally. She's telling everyone that it was just a mistake, and that she's sorry, but no one's buying it. Honestly, I think people are starting to distance themselves from her." The news should have made me feel triumphant, but instead, it just left me feeling empty. Tia was reaping what she had sown, but it didn't change the fact that our relationship was destroyed. She could cry all she wanted, but nothing she said or did would undo the damage. As for Logan, he was apparently going through his own crisis. According to Sarah, he was struggling to come to terms with the fact that he was about to become a father. He had never wanted kids, at least not anytime soon, and now he was being forced into a role he wasn't ready for. Part of me felt a flicker of satisfaction at his misery, but another part of me felt sorry for the child he was bringing into the world. That baby didn't deserve to be born into this mess. In the midst of all this, I made a decision. I was going to start over. I couldn't stay in the same city, surrounded by the same people, with the same memories haunting me every day. I needed a fresh start, a clean slate. So I began making plans to move. It wasn't going to be easy. I had a job, a home, and a life here, but I knew it was the only way I could truly heal. I started applying for jobs in other cities, and within a few weeks, I had several interviews lined up. It was exciting and terrifying at the same time. The idea of leaving everything behind, of starting over in a new place, was daunting. But it was also exactly what I needed. One evening, as I was packing up some of my things, I got a text from my dad. It was short and to the point. "Call me when you get a chance." I hesitated. I hadn't spoken to him since I told him I was going low contact. But something told me I should at least hear him out. So I called him. "Hey," I said when he picked up. "Hey, sweetheart," he replied. "I just wanted to check in. How are you doing?" "I'm okay," I said. "Just trying to figure things out." He sighed. "I know this has been hard. For all of us." I bristled at that. Hard for all of us? "Dad, I'm the one who was betrayed." "I know," he said quickly. "And I'm not trying to downplay that. But your mom, she's struggling too. She feels like she's losing both of her daughters." Well, maybe she should have thought about that before she chose Tia's side. "She didn't choose sides," he said softly. She doesn't know how to deal with this." "None of us do." I didn't respond right away. A part of me wanted to scream at him, to tell him that my mom had absolutely chosen sides. But another part of me was just tired. Tired of fighting, tired of being angry. I had been carrying this weight for so long, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could do it. "I'm moving," I said finally. "What?" My dad's voice was full of surprise. "I'm leaving. I've been applying for jobs in other cities, and I'm going to start over. There was a long pause. Is that really what you want? Yes, I said firmly. I need to get away from here. From all of this. I understand, he said quietly. I don't want to lose you. You won't lose me, Dad. But I can't stay here. Not after everything that's happened. I get it, he said. I just hope you'll stay in touch. Your mom, she may not show it, but she's hurting too. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just ended the conversation with a promise to keep him updated on my plans. After I hung up, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. I was finally taking control of my life, but it meant leaving behind the people who had been a part of it for so long. Over the next few weeks, things started to fall into place. I got a job offer in a city several hours away, and I found a cute little apartment that was perfect for a fresh start. It wasn't easy packing up my life, but every box I filled, every item I taped shut, felt like another step toward freedom. On the day of my move, Sarah helped me load up the last of my things. As we stood in my now empty apartment, she gave me a long hug. You're going to be okay, she said. You're stronger than you think. I hope so, I said, my voice shaky. I know so. And with that, I drove away from the city that had once been my home. The road stretched out before me, full of possibilities, full of unknowns. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scared. I was ready to heal. Ready to rebuild. Ready to move on, because in the end, life doesn't stop for anyone. It keeps moving forward, dragging you along with it whether you're ready or not. And now, I was ready to move with it. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment and follow for more stories.